Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of sewing. I've got my stack right here all set up in the same direction, okay? I'm going to start sewing the two open edges together, the sides together. This is one side, this is the other side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to match these up. I really want to match here and go toward the fold. If I start at the fold, I might make the layers slip and they'll be uneven. I don't want that. I want this to be even. So I'm going to take this like this, and it says 1/4 of an inch. Well, I think most presser feet are 5/8 of an inch wide. I think if you just use the center needle position, it's fine. I don't think you need to like do 1/4 of an inch. I find that they stretch well. We've been able to fit them on our heads just fine. So I think that this is really good because you might not be able to move your needle over to the right or to the left. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this and bring this here. And I'm going to put the presser foot down, and I always start with about 1/4 of an inch of fabric behind where the needle's going to be, okay? So I can just tap the pedal to get that to go down, and I'm going to go back to the edge, okay? Now here's the thing, is that starting at the edge and going forward, things can get balled up. So there are a couple ways you can prevent that from happening. One of the simplest ways I think here is I have these nice long tails here. I don't know if you can see them because they're pink, you know, but I'm going to take and hold those tails as I go forward now that the thread is into the fabric, and I'm going to help it through at the very beginning, and that's going to help a lot. Now I'm just going to take my finger and kind of pull like this. I'm sticking it into the fold and just pulling on that a little bit so that I can line it up and fold it in half flat. Now all I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a 3mm stitch length too, because I think 2.5 is just too short. What seems to happen when you sew is that as the fabric gets thicker, the stitches get shorter. So for fleece, I like to do, instead of the 2.5 stitch, which is 10 stitches per inch, I would do a 3mm stitch, which might be more of an 8 stitches per inch if you've got an old sewing machine, okay? So what I'm going to do here, and I'm just doing a straight stitch. Okay, now I'm going to back stitch here. Now because this is rather thick, if I take and I just, quilters understand this, you chain in another one. So I'm just grabbing off the pile, and I'm going to put this, and I'm going to have the edges even. I'm going to lift the presser foot. If you have an option where your needle stops down, this is really helpful. If you don't, turn the hand wheel so it stops down. Now I'm going to go on to there, and it's going to keep the foot level. All right, and I'm going to just go forward and just check those edges. Level it up. And I'm just going to let that go in. I'm not going to pull on it to keep it from going in. Now I'm going to get all the way to here, back stitch, go forward. Now I'm going to go back here. Can you see this? And I'm going to use my seam ripper and cut the threads between this and this. And then I can also cut the threads that I started with. And you shouldn't have any long threads to cut anymore. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to match up these corners just like I did before. Match up these corners. And now that I'm going to go right off that fabric, I'm going to lift up with the needle down, put that right against the needle, and then those feed dogs will grab it and then go back, and the foot stays level because it's still on this hat and going to this hat, and then you don't have a bunch of tails to cut. Okay, so I'm going to put my finger in here again, kind of pull on it a little bit and get those edges smooth together, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to just keep adding hats as I'm going to end up sewing this one. Both sides are sewn, okay? This one I haven't sewn the second side, but after I get done with this one, it's going to go in the next step pile. Okay, so here I'm going to cut this with my seam ripper. You can also use clippers or scissors or something like that, but I find the seam ripper is the fastest. You don't have to get your fingers in there or anything like that. So I'm going to match up those corners. I don't care about where the fold is right now. I just want to match up those corners. And I get that in there, go back, go forward. Now I'll stick my finger in there and kind of pull against that fold, and I can use my fingers to pull the fabric so that those edges are right on top of each other. Then I'll just let that feed in. Back stitch. Now this one is all done, so I can cut that away there, and I can put it on a pile over here so it's all ready for the next step. Okay, so you try and have everything with an economy of motion, and so that will work well. And remember, you just need a straight stitch for this seam because it doesn't need to stretch. Okay, all right, and so I'm going to keep working on this pile of 15. Thank you.